Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the incredible tactical genius and the massive historical footprint of a man who literally turned a thirst for revenge into the greatest empire of the ancient world. Now, history knows him as Alexander the Great, but today, well, we're going to look right past the myth. We're breaking down his exact strategies, the absolutely unbelievable odds he faced, and honestly, the shocking medical mystery that defined his death.
Here's how we're breaking this down. First, the catalyst and the prodigy. Then, the ultimate underdog, followed by the diplomat king. After that, we'll look at the unstoppable force meets India, and finally, we'll unpack a mysterious end and legacy.
Okay, Part 1. The Catalyst and the Prodigy, Fueling the Fire of Macedonia.
To really get Alexander, you've got to understand the deep, generational Greek hatred for the Persian Empire. This wasn't just a political rivalry. Oh no, it was deeply personal. See, after the Persian king Darius invaded and destroyed sacred Greek temples, literally reducing thousands of statues to ashes, a serious thirst for vengeance was born. And it was exactly this cultural climate that fueled a young prodigy from the small town of Pella in Macedonia. Now, Alexander's mother, Olympias, and the locals genuinely believed he was the son of the Greek god Zeus. Crazy, right? But gods aren't just born, they're made. At just 10 years old, this kid manages to tame a wild, unruly horse that literally no grown man could control. By 18, he's fighting right alongside his father in the incredibly brutal Battle of Chaeronea. And by the time he hits 25, he had completely transformed from a boy with a divine complex into the seasoned, undisputed master of Asia.
But here's the thing. Brute strength just wasn't gonna cut it. His father, King Philip II, knew he needed an intellectually sharpened leader. So, Philip brings in the greatest minds of Greece, most notably the legendary philosopher Aristotle. For 3 whole years, Aristotle didn't teach the kid how to swing a sword. Instead, he taught him extreme patience, he cultivated this rare open-mindedness, and helped him master complex diplomatic skills. This Aristotelian advantage gave Alexander a political cunning that would eventually prove to be just as lethal as his cavalry.
Moving on to Part 2, the ultimate underdog. David versus Goliath on the battlefield.
So when Alexander steps onto the world stage, he is facing an absolute mathematical nightmare. As he marches deep into enemy territory, he's commanding roughly 27,000 troops. Waiting for him? King Darius with a massive Persian army of well over 100,000 soldiers. I mean, on paper, this is a massacre. But because he relied entirely on unmatched strategic intelligence rather than just brute strength, his eventual victory turned into a tactical masterpiece. It's the kind of stuff military academies are still studying today. Let's break down his exact battlefield maneuver at the Battle of Gaugamela so we can see exactly how he dismantled a force that size. Step 1. He baited the attack. He basically allowed the massive Persian army to strike first just to draw them in. Step 2. His Macedonian forces executed this highly disciplined strategic retreat to literally open a hole right in the center of the battlefield. Step 3. As the Persians rush into that gap, thinking, they've got a guaranteed victory, Alexander sends his elite cavalry straight through that very gap, flanking them and ending up directly behind the Persian lines. It was a brilliant trap. This triggered absolute panic, causing King Darius to flee the battlefield in pure terror, where he was actually later assassinated by his own commanders. Just like that, the mighty Persian Empire was effectively over.
Which brings us to Part 3. The Diplomat King, Assimilation over Annihilation.
You see, winning the war was really only half the battle. To actually keep control of a massive, newly acquired empire stretching all the way out to Afghanistan, he had to put the sword away and open up a completely different playbook. Instead of forcing Greek culture down the throats of the conquered, he brilliantly adopted theirs. He kept local Persian commanders and governors right there in their positions of power. He didn't ban their religions, he actively celebrated their local festivals. Get this, he even married the daughter of his defeated enemy, King Darius, just to forge a royal bond. And when he unlocked those massive Persian treasuries, he didn't just hoard the gold back home. He distributed the wealth across the different regions. He won the loyalty of the local populations without shedding extra blood. Honestly, it proved that Aristotle's lessons in diplomacy were paying off big time.
But walking that line, it was a dangerous tightrope. Success actually bred betrayal. His own Macedonian men, the very soldiers who had bled for him since day one, felt deeply alienated by his adoption of Persian customs and him promoting Persian elites. This growing resentment eventually boiled right over into a full-blown mutiny. So Alexander was forced to shift gears from a benevolent diplomat back to a ruthless dictator, quickly and brutally crushing a conspiracy within his own ranks just to maintain control.
Let's jump to Part 4, The Unstoppable Force Meets India, the clash at the Khyber Pass.
Alexander's ambition was basically a fire that just couldn't be put out. Driven by this insatiable hunger for the massive, legendary wealth of the Indian subcontinent, his army pushed eastward through the Khyber Pass. But there, they met their toughest match yet. All across the known world, kings had surrendered to Alexander out of pure fear, but not in India. Here, he went up against King Porus, and it became his longest, most difficult, and most dangerous battle. Porus absolutely refused to surrender, fighting tenaciously for months with war elephants and fierce infantry. And you know what? Porus's incredible resistance earned Alexander's deep, genuine respect. So, in a stunning move of diplomatic genius, when the battle finally ended, Alexander didn't execute Porus. Actually, scratch that. He did the exact opposite. He expanded Porus's kingdom, leaving him in charge as a loyal ally rather than a conquered foe. It's a literal masterclass in leadership. Sometimes your fiercest rivals can become your most valuable partners.
And finally, Part 5, A Mysterious End and Legacy, The Immortal Legend.
After surviving the world's greatest armies and crossing thousands of miles of incredibly hostile territory, his sudden downfall didn't even happen on a battlefield. It happened in a palace in Babylon at just 32 years old. And what's truly shocking here is the number 6. After suffering from a severe fever for 10 days, Alexander was officially declared dead. But for 6 whole days after that declaration, his body did not decompose at all. Now, in the ancient world, a body that didn't rot was seen as ultimate, undeniable proof of divinity. It fully convinced his followers that he truly was a god ascending to the heavens.
But modern science, it tells a much darker story. Research now suggests Alexander likely suffered from a neurological disorder, possibly a stroke or something very similar to Guillain-Barré syndrome, which causes progressive paralysis. As his body began to shut down, his oxygen demands plummeted and his breathing became incredibly shallow. And because ancient doctors checked for breath instead of a pulse, they made a horrific mistake. The greatest conqueror in human history may have actually been buried alive while totally paralyzed, perfectly aware, but completely unable to move or speak. Just imagine that for a second.
Now, even though his massive empire fractured almost immediately after his death, basically torn apart by his own generals, his 20,000-mile journey permanently rewired the globe. Culturally, he sparked the Hellenistic period, blending Greek and Eastern cultures for the next 2 millennia. When it comes to trade, his routes laid the exact foundation for the Silk Road, literally connecting India to Europe. Urbanization. He founded over 50 cities, boldly naming them all Alexandria, and a bunch of them still thrive today. And militarily, those flanking maneuvers we discussed earlier, they are quite literally still taught in modern military academies right now.
His cultural impact was so profound that it even seeped right into our languages. Take the phrase, "Jo jeeta wahi sikandar." It's a famous proverb in Hindi and Urdu that directly translates to, "The winner is Alexander." His name literally became synonymous with ultimate victory across dozens of languages and cultures. From Persian texts all the way to Roman histories, his legacy as the ultimate winner was permanently cemented into human language itself.
Which brings us to the end of this explainer, and it leaves us with a truly fascinating what if. If a simple medical error or a sudden fever hadn't stopped him right in his prime, if he had lived to see 40 or maybe 50, how much further would the borders of the known world have been pushed? Would his empire have held together? And how drastically different would the map of the world look today? It's a pretty powerful reminder that history hinges not just on the clash of swords, but sometimes on the fragile, unpredictable limits of the human body.